This is Trophy Dark, Throne of the Forest Queen Part 2. We've already done our recapping off mic, but I will note here now that Lek has 5 ruin, and Lek, that means you are now entitled to do the reduction roll, which is a new rule. So the way the reduction roll works is whenever you try to betray the group secretly, you get to lower your ruin, that's automatic, and then you roll to see if the others notice your betrayal. And if they do, they can react however they wish, but if they don't, you can you can keep betraying the group. You can keep lowering your ruin as down to your starting ruin. So, and yeah, what else? I think that's probably where we're. Last thing we need to kind of talk about. The other characters are at ruin 3 currently. So let's go to ring 3. You had all felt the touch of the Forest Queen welcoming you into her realm as she whispered in your ear. And maybe you all experienced it at different times, maybe you experienced it at the same time, but in any case, you realize pretty quickly that there's no one there. You continue deeper, though, into the woods, past this strange, shifting topography. As the sun begins to set, you reach a forest glade, and it's getting dark. And the whole area that you're approaching is strewn about with fairy lights and glowworms, giving it kind of a festive air. Indeed, as you get closer, you hear laughter, you hear a song, you hear the distinctive sound of cutlery tapping china, right? And then you see them. The inhabitants of the glade, playful fawns, willowy dryads, minor lords and ladies of the fairy with their very ostentatious, silks and satins, but kind of combined with the natural world as well. The food that they're eating smells incredible. And a fawn approaches you all. Fawn, of course, is sort of half goat, half person. And this fawn, if not for their goat lower half, and maybe because of their goat lower half, you do you, they're very attractive. They have quite a beautiful, almost sort of like, just a sort of like musky lustiness to them, right? You can kind of smell them. And that's actually an interesting question. Well, I'll hold it for now. They approach. And the creature says, "You're just in time for our celebration. We have 3 spots. Please come join us. The day has gone late, and you're not going to want to go much deeper into the woods at this time of night in any case." And
it certainly smells delicious.
He's like, yes, it is. I myself eat only sparingly because I prefer more raw, unrefined fare. I've never been much one for cooking, but it all smells lovely. Akale, the fawn, looks at you and kind of like points at his own little horns and kind of gives you like a nod of, recognition and acknowledgement. Please follow me. Do you follow?
For sure.
I think just the basic act of walking into this scene would provoke a ruin roll if not for the fact that it's so pleasant. And it's hardly the most shocking thing you've seen in the last 24 hours. And so as the group is sort of like heading down that way, Lek, you might have a chance to peel off here and do some treachery if you wish.
He's following behind the other two rather tentatively, because I think he still has like the blood, at least some traces of blood like along the sides of his mouth, and he's kind of patting his throat, like trying to make sound. I mean, if he kind of tries to hum or if he tries to just like whisper a few words, does he hear his voice back? Okay. He'll
Jason, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's scratchy, but it's there. And of course, we know how you got your voice back, which I don't know if you all have spoken of yet, but in any case, what do you do?
Yeah, I think he's kind of looking, but then he will kind of furtively wipe his mouth, and then he will duck away from the group and then see if he can find the Forest Queen on his own.
Oh, interesting. That's enough to make the ruin roll.
Okay.
Just trying to sneak away.
Yeah.
Go ahead and roll ruin to see if the others notice.
Okay.
2. They do not.
Okay.
We'll come back to you. Mirren and Akale, as you get to this scene, there's actually a table laid out, and there are really fabulous foods all across the table. And there are people and creatures sitting all around it, laughing, cavorting. You each spy your favorite food on the table. What is it?
Mirren is very fond of slow roasted ducks. She remembers every holiday, every feast day. It was always that special thing that her mother spent hours making a meal around. It smells immediately like home.
I think Akale was really drawn to a kind of food that they probably never got in the cult they were in. Something kind of frivolous. I'm thinking like a candied nut, like candied pecans. They'd never imagined a food like that before escaping.
Mirren, a woman who is not wearing a mask, which means she's not a fae, strictly speaking, or she's a fae creature, but not a capital F fae. But rather, she has like almost like sort of like it looks like tattoos that are like tree bark on her face and on her body and her arms. And then you'll notice as she approaches you that it's actual tree bark. And she says, I couldn't help but notice you eyeing the roasted duck. I myself I don't really have a taste for it. I actually knew the ducks in question. But everyone has their role to play, I suppose. But you should certainly try it. It smells most rich and intoxicating. And she goes for like a little wing, tears it off, and you can see the fat dripping off of it, so succulent. And you can see now it also has like a glaze of some sort on it. She says, "Here."
Oh, that's very, very kind. It wasn't something that, should I say thank you? What was the duck's name? Do I perform?
She says, no, it's nothing like that. It's all right. That
Oh,
duck
well,
has many more lives to live yet.
then I'm not really supposed to talk about this. And Mirren will reach in her bag and pull out one of the little honey cakes from our previous ring and offer
says-
it in exchange.
She says, "I've had these. I know the woman who makes them."
They
Thank you.
smell delicious. I hope that you enjoy. And
She says, "I'm sure I will."
then Mirren will take a bite, the fattest part of the leg, and tear it off with her teeth.
Meanwhile, Akale, remind me what your food was, Akale?
Like candied pecans.
That's right. A Fey Lord who is dressed in like a really beautiful, like kind of royal blue coat and a frilly shirt and tall boots, but wearing the mask of the Fey, a sort of strange wooden mask that has the idea of antlers coming off of it. He comes up to you and he says, "You should go ahead and have some." And he reaches in a handful of the pecans, and the portion of the mask where his mouth is open. So he throws a couple into his mouth and then hands you some.
I think Akale is both absolutely transfixed on the candied pecans. Their eyes, as soon as they saw it, their eyes just kind of stationary. And especially now that the Fey Lord has kind of reached out with a handful, Akale is both transfixed and kind of bowing, very much getting a hierarchical feeling, right?
Yeah,
That they've only engaged with like modes of extreme supplication. And I think they quietly say, it feels rude to take such precious food without offering anything. And I think Akale begins to unpack half of their portion of the honey cakes.
He says,
And they go,
No, that's all right. This is a land of plenty. The Forest Queen's realm gives and gives. You have no need to return our favors or our hospitality. You're our guest. Please enjoy.
they kind of look up for the first time. Like, okay, I can relax into this maybe. They put away the honey cakes. They go, well, the realm has certainly been giving. And anyway, I hear that the Queen's court at the castle truly enjoys these cakes to the utmost.
He just
Thank
takes
you.
a pecan and moves it to your mouth.
Right.
Do you eat it?
Yeah, absolutely. It cuts me off mid-sentence and just, that's the life.
The food is delicious. The duck alternates between rich fattiness and sweet. And these candied nuts have just the right crunch. And yeah, it's wonderful. And I need both of you to roll ruin, please.
Ooh, mushrooms. Sits right down at the table.
Mirren's got a 2 and is okay. And Akale got a 1. Very well. Enjoy the
Okay.
party. We'll come back to the party in a bit. Let's go back to Lek. Lek, you are going around the party, it sounded like, in order to get to the Forest Queen first, or get there earlier, whatever.
Mm.
And you come across a young man sitting on a rock. He's very like delicately formed, very willowy, very delicate features and fingers, and he's a little shorter than you too. And he's wearing just sort of like, kind of a silk shirt and traveling pants. And he smiles. He has an instrument in his hand, sort of stringed instrument. And he says, "You'll want to be careful if you keep going any further."
Why, pray tell?
Well, that way, deeper into the woods, leads to the Horned Knight. And the Horned Knight is always engaged in his hunt. And you do not want to be his quarry. Well, most people don't want to be his quarry. Some people very much want to be his quarry. You don't look like you're from around here.
I'm not. But you'd think with all these flowers I am.
Well, it's not for me to judge your sartorial choices. And certainly you appear to have been affected by this place, but that doesn't mean you're from here, does it?
No, indeed. Are you from this place?
Well, I've been here so long that I've started to claim it as my own. Yes, I think that's right. But not originally. Not originally, no. I had a former life, but I can barely remember it anymore.
I remember a former life too, as much as I want to forget.
He says, "So I might be able to help you if you do try to go after the Horned Knight, or at least go into his realm."
I actually seek the Forest Queen.
Oh, then you must certainly go through him first.
Huh.
The guardian at the gate, if you will.
Whatever I have to do.
He says, "Perhaps we could have a trade."
What
Meanwhile,
sort
back
of
at the
trade?
party, everyone here is friendly and alluring and bedecked in fine silks and jewels, but also crowns of flowers and ornamental horns. The cutlery is extravagantly sculpted and made of precious metals. The plates are carved from rare wood. They actually have brought in artwork and hung it from the trees, like a sort of strange sylvan art gallery. The effect is beautiful and eerie, and it is a clashing of sensibilities and styles. And yet, despite their beauty and grace, Mirren, what unnerves you about these people?
The guests are very jovial, and Mirren is entertaining them with snippets of bawdy poetry, but it occurs to her that everyone has the same laugh. It is note for note the same laugh over and over again, and they sometimes line up and harmonize with one another when they're laughing together.
I'll pose the same question to you, Akale. Despite their beauty and grace, what unnerves you about them?
You tell me if this is outside the scope, but I believe Akale is fully kind of uncorked now. It's like eating quickly, enjoying all these delicious foods, having like a loud, boisterous conversation with the people around them, kind of like a first or second time you get drunk, really like rosy cheeked. And I think they first noticed it when they were telling a story about how, well, back in the cult, they never had stuff as simple as bread with jam on it. That's such an amazing luxury. And, we did have meat, rabbit. We had rabbit all the time, but, I hated it then because it was so stringy. But the rabbit here is, luscious. And then one of the people that's kind of laughing along and chatting with Akale starts to relate something about Akale's past to them as though they were there, starts knowing things about private moments Akale had by themselves. And they notice it and they kind of laugh a little bit louder to try to move past it, but it sticks in their mind.
Mirren, despite their strange laughing proclivity, as you look at your hosts, and your hosts here are the Fae, the other creatures are there. They are kind of like guests as well. But these tall, beautiful Fae lords and ladies with their masks, like they just rolled in from a strange, woodsy masquerade. And they're, well, what about your appearance do you wish was more like theirs?
Mirren she is a fairly tall woman. She's lithe. She was always regarded as very attractive, but somehow, even in their masks, she feels their beauty would make hers look plain and barely symmetrical by comparison.
A Fae lady wearing a gown that looks like it's spun from gossamer and wearing a mask that has the look of it almost looks like spider-like in its appearance, the tendrils coming off it. She leans forward across to you and she says, I can make you something, some adjustments. I can shape you. I can twist and turn, bob the needle and thread up and down. I can make you beautiful. I can drape you in the loveliness of this world.
Mirren looks down at her own torn and bloody green cloak and outfit and sighs. Could you do anything for my clothes?
Oh, yes. Yes, certainly. That is perhaps the best place to start. Come with me.
Mirren is enchanted and delighted by both the courtly appearance of this party and how well it seems to be going, and eagerly follows.
Akale, one of the artworks, depicts something, you, a scene, perhaps auguring your future. a scene showing something about you and the Southern Pass Company, an incident, a wish, a prophecy, who knows? But they seem to know a lot about you, and this painting seems to be reflecting some sort of insight it has managed to glean. What does the painting show?
Insight about something between Akale and the Southern Pass Company, a wish, a future. I think it's Akale standing over the body of the officer of the Southern Pass Company that they have to pay their debts to. Like a club in their hand, maybe slung a little bit over their shoulder. So like maybe the blood's a little bit out of sight in the painting, but it's very much a man's body on the ground, and Akale's grinning.
Make a ruin roll.
That makes sense. Oh, that's 4.
A Fey Lord walks up behind you, and you realize now that the horns in your head have grown quite a lot. He grabs them from behind and sort of strokes them up and down. And he says, "Are you enjoying the party?"
Yes.
Good. You seem to have noticed something in that painting that causes you a disturbance. Everyone sees something different. I would love to know what it is you see.
Oh, that's why it looks just like me. I see myself freer than I am now.
And what has trapped you? I don't see a snare on your leg, and so I assume this is a metaphorical entrapment. Or figurative.
Depends on how figurative a debt is. Maybe here I'm far enough away from it where it wouldn't weigh as heavily on me, but where
What a
I've come
tragedy
from.
that your people, or perhaps your former people, are so that they hurt themselves in this way, that they do this to themselves. You could be here in the Forest Queen's land of plenty for as long as you'd like, and have as much as you'd like, and you don't have to worry about debt. You don't have to worry about these small, beady-eyed cruelties. Would you like that?
Akale pauses. Is it like this every day? They say, kind of gesturing around at everything.
He says, not exactly like this. We are a people that we tend to do things in extremes.
Well, that sounds all right to me.
Tell me.
What would I have to do?
Tell me more. How did you free yourself in the painting?
The man that I have to pay my monies to, that takes my wages, I think I hit him in the head with a club.
Hard.
I don't think that he's getting back up.
Would you say you caved his skull in?
They nod.
Lek, meanwhile.
What kind of trade?
The
He
young
asks.
man gets very close to you. And he says, information for information. How does that sound?
I can always answer a question. Proceed.
Good. And he's very close now. Mere inches from your face. He's a little shorter. And he's almost like, though he certainly wouldn't want to ruin the moment, he's on his tiptoes a bit so that he can be a little more face to face with you. And he says, tell me what you treasure most in this world. I should like to write a song about it.
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that, youngling. Not my mistresses. Not my family. No one.
And yet there must be something that you want above all other things.
Do I dare tell you? What will you do if I tell you?
I shall tell you what I have promised to tell you, as per our bargain.
I wish for someone to truly care and not just use me as someone to do their bidding.
Something about the young man's smell is not just like good. It causes you to think back on your happiest moments. It is the kind of smell that arouses, but also the kind of smell that reaches deep into some nostalgic place in your brain and draws things forth. What does he smell like?
It's warring with the flowers that are in Kel's, excuse me. Yeah, Kel's hair and his festooned all over his clothes. But he smells this amazing scent of it's like citrus. It's like some kind of like citrus fruit. Like he's remembering tasting this and enjoying this taste with someone who might have actually cared at one point. And then the memory's lost.
He takes one of the flowers from your hair and puts it in his own. And he leans forward to within a few millimeters. And he parts his mouth for a kiss. Do you kiss him?
Especially if the scent is coming from his mouth, and if, you know, he's starting to overwhelm the flower scent with it. I mean, well, Kel will.
Make a ruin roll. Looks like you got a 4, which is your current ruin, correct?
No, actually it's 5.
Oh no, because you did a reduction roll, didn't you?
Oh, I had not.
Yeah, you should have lowered it when you did the reduction roll.
Okay.
So you're just at 4 still.
Okay.
And when you're done, he says, now I shall tell you what I know of the Horned Knight. Mirren, This Fey lady with her gossamer gown, she takes you to a little clearing of trees near the table, away from everyone. You can still hear the din of conversation. She says, "I'll get you fixed right up. I recommend you close your eyes."
Are you going to kiss me?
No, only if you want me to. I have no compunctions one way or the other. No offense.
Oh,
But maybe when I'm done, I shall be more motivated. I happen to have a certain level of self-regard that would be attracted to my own work.
I completely understand how you mean. And Mirren will close her eyes, listening to the din of the party, and her lips purse just a little.
There's no kiss forthcoming, but your eyes
Mirren
are closed.
doesn't know that.
Your eyes are closed, and you hear then you feel probing and touching by many hands, doing careful work, quick work, mending needle and thread. You feel gloves being removed and replaced. You feel collar being loosened and something else being tied around. Occasionally, one of the hands brushes by you and you feel bristly fur. Make a ruin roll.
But why, though? This seems so fun.
Mhm. You got a 6, your ruin goes up.
Mhm.
That is your first condition, if I'm not mistaken.
It is indeed.
We'll come back to this. The Fey Lord says, "I would have you find release in a literal way, not just a figurative way, friend." And he picks up a rock. And he takes off his coat and his shirt, leaves on his mask, and he exposes himself. And this has everyone's attention. He says, "Strike me down."
Akale looks terrified. They're, I guess, holding this heavy rock, and they say, but you don't hold me in any kind of bondage. Why would I do that?"
"I am your oppressor. I am your creditor. I have kept you in bondage for the better part of your adult life, and I offer you now the opportunity to strike me down. Cave in my skull and spill my blood here upon the grass." And you hear a couple of "Hear, hear, yes, yes." Quite a lot of interest in what you're going to do.
I imagine that, like, the kind of dreamlike quality of this whole evening is starting to come to a fever pitch in Akale's mind, and they're kind of looking around quickly at the voices shouting "Here, here." I'm not sure what they would be, but I imagine they're noting any similarities they can find or manufacture in their mind between this Fey Lord and the the man that Akale pays their debt to. And then something clicks and their face drops into just flatness, and they wind up with the rock and just absolutely brain the Fey Lord in the side of the head. And they're grinning now.
Make a ruin roll.
Let's see. Well,
You got a 1. I want to know how this makes you feel.
yeah, good question. Well, I guess after taking that point of ruin from talking about the painting in the first place, I think Akale feels like what they saw in their face in the painting, right? Like joy, lightness. Yeah, I imagine the party like kicking up into cheers.
Yeah, it's very he's on the ground. His skull is caved in. There's Fey brain matter and blood all over the grass. He looks quite dead. And a fawn approaches and kneels down to remove his mask. And he kind of like touches the exposed part of his mouth very like tenderly. And he looks up at you, the fawn, and says, "Do you want to see what's beneath his mask?"
I think Akale in the intervening time has grabbed a handful of candied pecans and is currently chewing in a huge mouthful. It's like spilling out of their mouth between chews, and they stop, right? Mouth a little bit open. And they just kind of like lower the stone they've been holding up in championship and move in closer conspiratorially and just nod, kind of lean down on their haunches.
And the fawn smiles and removes the mask. Mirren, when it's all done, the Fey Lady says, "You can open your eyes now." And she has made your clothing, you still look the same, but everything is just like the colors are a little brighter, the cloth is a little finer, the threads are a little more finely done. She says, "Well, it does seem that the clothes do make the woman in this case."
As Mirren was experiencing this very Fey sort of multi-fingered tailoring, she was trying not to shiver and just keeping her body as stiff as possible. And as she opens her eyes and looks again at the Fey woman, "Well, I certainly feel a bit finer."
She says, "We should make our way back to the party." And she offers her hand.
Mirren knits her fingers through hers.
And I think when you arrive, you see Akale. That's right, when Akale brains the Fey Lord, there's just a crush and a cheer of celebration. Please roll ruin, Mirren.
That makes good sense. It's a 3.
So you're holding steady, but where are you at right now in terms of you're at 4?
A 4. Mhm.
And I owe you a condition, so let's go ahead and get that sorted out.
Mhm. Mirren just clutches the bicep of this Fey woman and says, I don't want this to reflect badly on me. He's just my traveling companion."
She says, "Don't worry yourself over it, dear. And she puts her fingers on your face, and she's pulling something out of you like a thread. But it's a memory. Her payment for her work. What precious memory do you forget forever?
One of Mirren's great joys when she was younger was her horse. Riding gave her the sense of freedom that she could not have at home. And I think that I no longer recall riding at all.
She says, she smiles and says, this was a fine payment, full of bucolic wonder and pastoral loveliness. I regret it is just for me now. But
I'm sorry,
perhaps-
what?
She says, never mind. Don't trouble yourself over it, dear.
Hmm.
And Lek, the young man, says, the Horned Knight. It would be wise to run when he gives chase. His hunting host, they are terrible, and they revel in blood and carnality. And yet, the Horned Knight also wishes to be hunted. If you can capture the Horned Knight yourself, turn the tables, you can extract from him a fabulous boon. The coward runs, but the hero turns the tables and is rewarded for their bravery and cleverness.
Can he be stalked? Can he be snuck up upon?
He can only be captured.
Still valuable advice. I thank you.
And he kind of leans back and he says, and you realize now his lips have pollen from where he kissed you. And there's soil dribbling down from between your fingertips. And the air is heady with the floral scent around you. He says, you're going to become a local like me soon.
Trading one yoke for another.
Indeed. Akale, removing the mask. This is actually a thing in Loom. I think I'm going to use Loom real quick. There's a whole what happens when you unmask a face section. Let's go find it. Take a moment. There we go. Do me a favor, Akale, and roll a risk, one dark, one light, just to get those two dice.
Looks like a 6 on the light, 5 on the dark.
Okay. Oh. You remove the mask, and it actually looks surprisingly normal in terms of there's not some strange sylvan horror underneath. But it's a man. Very, very beautiful. If not for the blood and gray matter dribbling down his face. Quite well formed. And yet, a spider web of gold filigree all over. The fawn looks up at you and says, "They are beautiful even in death, aren't they?"
More beautiful for having been broken, it would appear.
Yes, I suppose. And he leans down and gives a sort of gentle, like, kiss to the Fey Lord and presses his hands on his lips. And that concludes ring 3. Let's take a 5-minute break. Ring 4. The treasure hunters enter the domain of the Horned Knight. Mirren and Akale, the party goes on through the night, and it ends. I don't think you even realize until the sun is risen overhead again that Lek wasn't even there. And almost like waking up from a dream, you find yourselves on the path going deeper into the woods. But Mirren, your finery is still there. Akale, your hands are still caked in dried blood. Mirren, Akale's horns are quite pronounced at this point. And Akale, you will notice the change in Mirren's appearance. I think we should just have that scene for a moment.
I think
Oh, go ahead.
as mine's simple. I think Akale for sure has their rock also. And it's just giving a look to Mirren like some party while gesturing with their rock.
I mean, traditionally, the parties that I have been to, I mean, did he hurt you, insult you? Did he attack you?
No, he asked me to. That's the best part. It was amazing.
I also had an amazing time. I think I've made a true friend today.
I feel like this forest might be full of true friends. Honestly.
It feels so lovely to be here. I feel almost at the cusp of the swirling court itself. You're not going to use that rock on me, are you?
Oh, well, not unless you ask me.
I specifically ask you not to. Please.
Right, of course. No, no need to worry.
Did Lek not wake up with us this morning?
I lost him in the shuffle of the party. I assume that he got up to some shenanigans.
Well, perhaps he and his fox ran off to solve yet another. Maybe he'll come back with a new animal companion.
Did you not all see him eat the fox? I could have sworn
Oh,
you did.
Did
I
we
think we
watch
did.
that?
I think you watched that. Yeah.
Yeah,
My bad.
we did ruin it.
That's-
Like
That's me
Akale,
as a
Akale goes,
player.
yeah. Miriam, have you already forgotten? He ate the fox.
No, that's good.
Actually, we'll just play into it. Mirren's having some memory issues in general.
That is your condition. Your memories are being kind of like siphoned away.
It's perfect.
Although
Oh,
it specifically says precious ones. So sorry, continue.
oh, it must have just been the party. It's a little bit of a Swiss cheese.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'm sure he's around the corner.
He must be, I guess. I'm trying to remember, and Akale's like screwing their eyes shut pretty tightly. Was he, Marion, was he even there? Was Lek at the party?
Let's check in with Lek. Lek, did you spend the night with the young man?
Pretty sure he did. Pretty sure he did.
I think you wake up next to him. The sun is already getting pretty high in the sky. He is undressed and up on one elbow, kind of laying down, looking at you. And he says, "So have you made your decision? Are you going to try to sneak past the Horn Knight, or are you going to try to capture him?"
The first thing out of, his mouth is, "My name is Kel. It's always been Kel."
He says, "I find that names are a complicated situation here. I think it's best to not anchor yourself in a place like this. But I can tell that you are speaking such truth to me. And I certainly value that. But it's just as well if we just remember this evening for what it was, which was a wonderful pleasure. And a fair trade."
Fair trade.
But
Does it
I
have
put the
to be
question to you again. Have you made your decision?
a clarification? Does it have to be a physical capture?
Now you are answering the right questions, or asking the right questions, and I shall perhaps answer them. I think you're going to learn soon enough that hunt and capture, predator and prey means all sorts of things here, and also nothing. This is the fickle manner of the Forest Queen. She amuses herself in this way. We are
Am I to
all
be
just here for her amusement, after all.
Am I to be part of the dream as well, then?
I couldn't say. He leans in, says, "But I am fairly certain that our passion last night was most entertaining to her. And so that has almost certainly earned us good cheer and favor. Take that with you."
I will. Anything to entertain.
Indeed, indeed. And he picks up his stringed instrument and puts his pants back on and says, "I wish you luck, Kel. Whatever you decide."
And I appreciate that. Nameless.
"Remember me as a song." He plays a tune, a note. and walks away.
I think Kel will rise from the flowers, and even as flowers fall from him, I think that there's still flowers clinging to him, and there's just this profusion, and he's just going to make his way further into the forest. He's kind of an obvious thing right now.
Mirren and Akale, you arrive in the domain of the Horned Knight first. You don't even know what you're walking into, unlike Lek. I think that the domain is preceded by a waterfall. You can hear the thunder of water. It like drowns out your speech at a certain point, and you can feel the cool spray in your face. And anytime you talk about Lek, flower petals on the air brush your lips, and you feel the sun warming your hair. The whole day has the throb of desire to it. And then you see the hunt. There's a young man wearing no clothing, lithesome and beautiful. And he's running from the hunt, laughing, but also it's like he's running, but like he falls. Ah, and it gets up. No, and falls down again, right? And you see this gang of goblins and twisted furry beasts sort of following behind, giving chase. And he gets up and he's like, no, leave me be. And falls down again. And the goblins in these sort of furry wolf biped things, they're all just kind of like laughing and howling. And the goblins are wearing furs too, so it all just kind of looks like a sort of yammering, howling mass. And they're hooting and hollering. And the young man like makes one more desperate attempt to get away. And then they're upon him. And they lift him up. I want ruin rolls from both of you at the sight of the hunting host first. It looks like Akale's okay. Mirren is going up, though. Mirren, you lose another memory upon seeing the hunting host. What is it? What precious memory is gone forever?
I think that she has lost all sense of home altogether. She has no sense of family any longer. She's just always been here.
It's a big one.
And I am now at ruin 5.
The hunting beasts, they lift up this young man. He struggles. Let me go. Let me go. And they hold him in place. And you see the Horned Knight. He is a powerful, wild, gorgeous monstrosity. He's tall and muscular, crowned with antlers, entirely naked, green of skin. Should put a little picture in the chat for you. He steps into the clearing to claim the prey. You can immediately smell him. His musk stirs lustful thoughts in you both. How does he smell to you?
Mirren smells oak moss and damp, musty leaves. In addition to an animal musk, it is the musk of an ancient forest.
Akale smells fresh wind blowing through an open field full of dandelions right as it is about to rain.
He touches the prey, draws the prey to him. The prey seems captivated by the Horned Knight. He looks up at him with eyes that are wide and open and awe-inspired, but also filled with incredible desire and want. And the Horned Knight smiles and draws him close, kisses him on the mouth, on the neck, on the collarbone, strokes the back of his head. The hunting beasts are practically quavering at this point with anticipation. And the Horned Knight tears him in two, rips his skin like paper. It tears, spattering blood and flesh and bone everywhere. Cracks open the rib cage and invites the hunting beasts to take whatever they want from inside, and they do. And the whole while, the prey just smiles. He's so happy, even as his body is being rent in two. And the Horned Knight tosses the prey over to the hunting creatures who begin tearing and devouring what's left. And then the Horned Knight trains his gaze in the direction of you two. Mirren, you're at Ruin 5, yes?
I am indeed.
You can betray Akale right now to escape, and you'll get a reduction roll.
I think Mirren will lean over to Akale, and just below his newly sprouted horns, she will whisper
There.
in his ear. Oh, thank you. Their horns will whisper in their ear. He seems just your type.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, Akale is turned very wide-eyed. I think the phrase you hear when deer are spooked is like the whites of their eyes like become really big. And that's happening to Akale. They're gripping their stone so tight that their knuckles are absolutely ivory white. And yeah, they're just looking at Mirren like she's crazy. Like she could have just said that about a wood chipper running.
Mirren,
And,
what do you do? Do you try to escape? Do you push Akale towards the Horned Knight? Like, what do you do here?
I think that it's Mirren will move around the back of their body and torso and kind of blow a kiss to the Green Knight and just
to
dip.
lure the Horned Knight over to Akale. Yeah, I like it. Make a reduction rolls to see if Akale picks up on the treachery here.
Oh, I technically rolled ruin, but I rolled a 2.
Okay, we'll take it. Your ruin goes down. The Horned Knight looks at you, Akale. He fixes his gaze on you, and he gives you such a warm, inviting smile. Something about his features reminds you of someone that you love. Who is it and what is it?
I think it's someone that works at a bakery at the fort. They've got a habit of letting Akale rummage through like the leftover crusts at the end of the day, because Akale is perpetually in a state of impoverishment while paying back their debt. And I think it sounds a little bit basic, but I think it's just warm eyes, warm kind of brown amber kind of eyes.
The hunting beasts are on you by the time you break your gaze with the Horned Knight. They're swarming in from both sides, while the Horned Knight just slowly, casually makes his way in your direction. The beasts yammering and hissing and biting and yowling, some of them goblin-like, some of them wolf-like, all of them quite shaggy. They are just swarming in. Mirren, you can describe your escape if you wish.
Is the landscape still in flux in this
No,
ring?
that's
Okay.
that's over.
So then Mirren will slowly back away from Akale. And then as the beasts begin to really swell, will scramble up a rock face to a higher perch to avoid the throng of, beasties.
Lek, you arrive just as the Horned Knight has gained, or his attention has been drawn to Akale. You see Akale, you see Lek, you see Mirren after the creatures move in, kind of making a getaway, but Akale's in danger. You're still entitled to make reduction rolls. You can just leave Akale to their fate if you want to get a reduction roll for that, or you can try to intervene.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did my ruin go up? like on the.
No, once you hit 5, you can always keep going down.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You can do reduction rolls till you get to your starting ruin again, if you wish.
Now, is it the hunting horde that is upon Akale, or is it the Horned Knight?
The Horned Knight is not yet. Yeah, the Horned Knight is actually kind of exposed because he's sort of bringing up the rear. So if you wanted to do that, you could also do that. You might also just notice the bloody remains of the prey. I think I'd like for you to do a ruin roll in any case.
Sure.
Okay, you got a 3, so you're keeping that together. So what do? Do you help Akale? Do you make a move against the Horned Knight here? Do you just escape?
No. I think in this moment, especially seeing that the Horned Knight is literally antlered. I think and green. I think he's literally having flashbacks to the stag back at the Flocculent Cathedral.
Flocculent Cathedral, yeah.
Yeah, and so he is actually going to create a fault in front of the Horned Knight to try and get him to fall in and thereby capturing him. And if it happens to get wide enough to encompass the goblin horde, or the hunting horde, to get them off Akale, then it's bonus. But I mean, he's mainly going to create this fault.
I think we'll start with. I think we have to start with Akale. Akale, what are you going to try to do to escape the situation?
So Akale is fully unhinged. I mean, shouldn't be lost on me that this is like another occasion where they're being threatened with restriction, right? Being captured. So they are screaming so loud, they don't even realize it. They're just screaming truly at the top of their lungs, like they've been stabbed, even deeper than I'm sure the teeth are going already. And they are swinging that big rock, trying to brain every single one of these little goblins to make to get out, try to go around, try to lose themselves in the forest. They're trying to just cut a swath with this big rock through all these little beasties.
Risk roll.
Okay.
I think what could go wrong is fairly straightforward here. That the beasties grab you, capture you, maybe even tear you apart. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts, Mads or Sarah? What could go wrong here? There's something I'm missing. Let's talk dice. Do you have a relevant skill?
I feel like strength could apply to the braining, and
yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
And Devil's Bargains. Everyone gets to make one. I'm going to say let me take a look at your. I'm going to say that Fey Lord you murdered appears. Now, whether he's hostile or whatever, it doesn't matter, but he's just there. That's my offer.
I'm interested in that.
I think you'll see, no matter what, I think you're going to see among these beasties or the goblins, I think you're going to see that some of them have the badge or mark of the cultists.
That's an intriguing idea.
Yeah. It feels very appropriate as well.
No matter what, in the struggle, you will lose hold of your rock. You will no longer have it.
Do I want to lose that rock? It's done so well by me so far. It's the last thing I've got. No, I've still got a comb and some honey cakes. I'm inclined to go with the fact that the little beasties have signs of being a part of the cult.
Oh, that's intriguing. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think falls up on one of the last Devil's Bargains that we did.
Yeah, where I think like maybe what was
the mountain? We were climbing the mountain.
Yeah. We know they came through.
Can you pick more than one Devil's Bargain?
You cannot, no. Let's talk about I think it's 2 light, 1 dark. So yeah, take it away.
Okay. I will give that a roll.
A 5 light, you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
The complication is going to be Tell me a little bit about the cult itself. What was their deal and why'd you leave?
Trying to remember what we alluded to last time, and I feel like we talked a lot about it being very much like we're preparing for the new world, we are foreseeing a cataclysm. We are ushering in a new order kind of thing. And I think one of the ideas that's been rolling around in my head is that Akale has like a lot of really disturbing memories from having to take part in the sacrifices. And I don't even think that they're necessarily human sacrifices. I think, or as far as sacrificing life, I think it's a lot of like ritual mutilation of wild animals that they would catch. I think some like human sacrifice, but
Mhm.
not again, like not like sacrificing their lives, sacrificing, parts of their body.
That's why
I
he
think
left.
that's, yeah, that, and again, the pervasive idea of just like never having had a choice. I think Akale was like born into this. And yeah, they just want
I
to
think
be able to do.
the complication is you escape, of course, because you succeed. The complication is they get a piece of you.
Okay.
Almost as a like this is our due, right?
Yeah. And if I were to re-roll, it would be adding a dark die.
And rolling 2 and 2.
Gotcha. And so, man, there's a lot of numbers less than 5 and only one number more. And I don't want to feel like I'm not being bold and making big decisions, but I also love that complication. I would love
Go
to
for
like
it. Yeah.
lose a hand
Absolutely.
in this.
Yeah, I like the idea of you losing a hand as well.
Or an antler.
Yeah, let's have the scene. Do the scene. Just describe like the escape. What does it look like?
Like I said, the thing that sticks out to me is like the diegetic noise of the scene, right? Like we're close up on Akale's face. They're like face contorted in a mask of terror and rage, like teeth bared almost, as like blood from these little beasties is just like splattering up on their face in quick marks. You see their, body, torso turning as they smash the rock back and forth. And as kind of like the intense ringing sound that's going on behind this shot fades, it again lets more and more of just the sound that Akale is making, which is a terrible, gut-wrenching scream that kind of devolves into this mantra that they're repeating in such a way it almost doesn't sound like language anymore, but it's a let me be, let me be, let me be.
And they take your hand.
I think hand is good, or they could tear off one of my antlers. That would hurt at this point.
Oh yeah, however you wish. You can describe it though.
Yeah, I think Akale is putting stock into some of the freedoms that they've experienced so far in this forest, and I think that not only would it be an incredibly painful thing to have someone just tear off a relatively fresh and virile antler, I imagine, it would. I think they were starting to like the antlers a little bit.
Mirren, you were escaping, yes. You hear all that. You see all that. You hear a strum of a stringed instrument. Broom. And there is a young man sitting on a rock. He says, sounds like a pretty intense scene going on over there.
I was so nearly caught up in myself.
Well, I have to tell you, your friend there, and here he points out Lek, the one with all the flowers raining down from their brow. He's devised a plan to capture the Horned Knight, if you can believe it. I certainly wouldn't want to sow discord amongst a group of colleagues. But anyone who can capture the Horned Knight gets to claim a wish or a request from him. Of course, the Horned Knight is even more impressed by people who capture the captors.
And you're just telling me this for fun? I sense you have a flair for drama.
I am a servant of the Forest Queen. I do what I can to amuse.
Then perhaps you could tell me what she would find most amusing in this moment.
I think she would be most amused if, after your colleague manages to capture the Horned Knight, if, and that's a big if to be fair, if you then ensured that you were the first person that the Horned Knight laid eyes on, thereby making the Horned Knight think that you captured him, and therefore earning his favor. A simple misunderstanding, of course, perhaps. But I think the Forest Queen would be most amused that you should have such a wonderful benefit when it was your friend who did the work.
Well, I certainly appreciate that insight. I am looking to charm her.
She would
Perhaps
be-
I will intercede.
I think you ought. I really do. Get his favor and hers, a 2-for-1. 2 birds with 1 stone, as Akale smashes a stone against a goblin. Right? Lek, let's have your ritual. You were going to essentially break open the ground and try to capture the Horned Knight that way, yes?
Correct. Yes.
I love it. What do you think could go wrong here?
Oh,
Or no, you don't get to say. I'm playing the wrong
Yeah.
game. We get to say what could go wrong here.
Hmm.
What do we think could go wrong here?
I mean, the layup is that it draws the attention of the Horned Knight, right?
Yeah, I think the Horned Knight just captures and kills you. I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's talk about skills. Do you have a relevant skill here?
rituals.
I'll take
For
it.
my ritual, yeah.
And Devil's Bargains. Everybody gets to offer.
Hmm. It's a toughie.
Mhm.
So the first thing that comes to my mind, and I'm not privy to like the entirety of the lore we're working with here, so this might be like putting a hat on a hat. But what if, no matter what, you like the Forest Queen knows this is happening, it's like watching, and like is making a note of that on the ledger, right? If you were to make it to her, that would be a thing at front of mind.
You capture the Forest Queen's attention. I think is that's a good one. I'm going to say that no matter what, when no matter what, when this story is over, you must drape the Horned Knight's body in your flowers. Sarah, do you have an offer?
I just second yours. All in favor. I really.
All right, you get 2 choices. What do you think, Mads?
Capture the Forest Queen's attention or drape the Horned Knight in the flowers. I mean, I think he's single-minded now, so I think he's going to want the Forest Queen's attention, no matter for ill or for good. Yeah. So
You have 2 light dice, and you have to do a dark die because of the ritual. So go ahead and roll 2 light, 1 dark.
all right.
5 dark. That's high. You have to stop.
Yeah.
The complications are you're going to succeed. The complication is that I think you're going to have your heart broken when you realize that it was the young troubadour that set Mirren to try to capture your prize. And so describe how you capture the Horned Knight.
I think as Kel comes to the fore and sees this scene, the torn body, like Akale being set upon by the hunting horde, and Mirren, I guess, like kind of in the periphery, like trying to get away. I think he's like zeroes in on the Horned Knight and knows immediately as he's moving towards him, and then, you know, streaming flowers from his head and from his clothing, he's going to make the default motion and the ritual, and then he's going to crack it open like wide to create a rift, just like he did with breaking open the riverbed. And then you know, it's so big that the Horned Knight can't help but fall through. And as this is happening, like the flowers are not only streaming from him, but they're also kind of like bursting behind him, like almost like an explosion response to the rift that he created in front of the Horned Knight.
So I think the situation is the Horned Knight is like actually down like in a hole, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And Mirren, the young man, says, "Now's your chance. Run and meet him. Claim your prize. Your colleague does not yet know the danger. Do you do it?"
So Mirren looks back at the troubadour and does a fetching wink and presses her hand against her chest and holds her other hand out and wants to blink into the arms of the Green Knight, or yes, of the Horned Knight as they fall.
This is very good. I love it. Yeah, that's very good. I think this is probably a contest roll to see who wins the favor of the Horned Knight, however you manage to do it. I like that as a setup, though, for sure. So let's take a look at the die roller to get the contest roll sorted out here. It says, when treasure hunters act against each other, compete, or otherwise want to inflict harm on each other, agree what's at stake. What's at stake is who wins the favor of the Horned Knight. That's what's at stake. Okay. Then 1 light die if you get, basically if you have a skill that applies, you get 1 light die. Mirren, passion, maybe?
Rituals, persuasion,
Passion, yeah,
that.
it's all, yeah, all that kind of works. Lek, do you have one? Because this might come down to being like an argument, right? Of like, no, I captured you.
Right. It could conceivably be performance, because I mean, again, like not only is he using his ritual, but I mean, like he's like also
This flower
like,
thing
using
going
flowers.
on. Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
a
you've got
spectacle, really.
Yeah. You both have 1 light die. Very good. And you each get a light die for each mark of ruin you have. You both have 4. So you're tied currently at 5 light each. The contest is inherently dangerous. The Horned Knight ripped a dude in half just a second ago. So that is good. So you're both up to 5 light, 1 dark, and you can risk as many dark dice more as you wish. Now, remember, you're looking for 6s. Whoever gets the most 6s wins the stakes. However, every dark die that comes up a 1, your ruin goes up by 1. So think about that as you are plugging in your amount that you're going to risk. You don't have to tell each other. You just decide and then roll. Whenever you're ready, say so. It's a minimum 5-1.
I'm locked in.
Locked in? All right, roll. Okay, my mic's kind of in the way, so I have to crane a little bit here. So Lek got 1-6 and Mirren got 1-6. Let's go to fives. Lek got 1, 2, 3 fives. Mirren got 1, 2, 2 fives. I think I have that right. Lek is the winner. Who got ones on their sixes? No one. So very good. Safe contest as far as that goes. Let's kick off the scene, Mirren, with you blinking into the arms of the Horned Knight. What does that look like?
Oh, hello.
He's holding you. That
Hand upon his
smell
chest.
is so overwhelming. And he kind of looks down at you, and his voice has this deep bass that sounds like the rumble of a river or a mountain. And he says, "Is this your trickery?"
I merely thought that I might save you. As the chasm opened below your feet, I didn't think it was quite right for them to trap you so.
He says, "I see. Oh. So you are trying to gain my favor."
Well, I mean, who wouldn't want your favor?
Lek, you can overhear this down in the hole.
I mean, like, I don't even know whether he's going to even consider using voice, just because it's like, he's indignant, but he's also passionate at this moment. He just opened a chasm behind, underneath this guy, and no, this is my hunt. I hunted you. I captured you. You're mine.
He looks up and says, "So you are the captor."
Indeed.
And he looks down at Mirren and he says, "I only have one favor to give. Who shall I give it to? The captor, who so ably managed to put me on the back foot? Or shall I give it to this lovely one, who had such bravery and cleverness to appear here in my arms?" Akale, at the end of your fight,
Mm-hmm.
I think you see this little scene going on. You hear it at least. You're covered in blood. And you can keep going if you want.
That's tough. I think I'm willing to just forego this to avoid needlessly separating the group and losing the opportunity to see what happens next amongst the three of us. But I do think that Akale has just swung their way out with bloody violence and is just now like sprinting like an animal out of control towards the castle of the Forest Queen.
Meanwhile, the Horned Knight has stated his dilemma out loud. Lek, how do you convince him?
I think he will sing. I think he will use voice. I mean, he'll bring his flower strewn hands together and breathe in and then sing and then really have that voice not only speak and sing to him, but also like convey smells and senses and like try to touch him with the sound. So using my ritual voice.
Mirren, what effort do you make to draw his attention back to you? Even though we know it won't be successful ultimately.
I think between the rumbling of his voice and then the vibrato words today, the tremor tenor of Lek or Kel's voice, I think that she is probably just a quivering, eager young thing that is in his arms, and it will be hard for him not to pay attention.
He ultimately looks you in the eye, Mirren, and says, "You are indeed a delightsome quarry, little one. But I find myself drawn to the other. His voice, his crown of flowers, they are a counterpoint to my fundamental nature." And then he just like sets you down gently on the ground and then puts a little like say nothing finger on your mouth and then looks up at Lek and says, "What would you have of me, Hunter?"
Take me to your queen, so I may also gain her favor, as you do.
He says, "We shall go. We shall go as lovers. We shall go as one betrothed to another. Crown of horns and flowers." And he crawls out of the hole quite easily. It's leaving Mirren in it. Akale pressing forward towards the forest queen, and the horn knight drawing you in close, Lek. The flowers falling on his horns and body. And that concludes ring 4. Let's take a 5-minute break. Ring 5. The treasure hunters, one by one, reach their destination, the Forest Queen's court. Akale, you arrive first. You have the coppery taste of blood, yours, as well as the blood of the hunting beasts, some of which may or may not have been your former cultist colleagues. That coppery taste is in your mouth. But it is washed away by a wind coming off a lake. There's an enormous clearing in the woods now that you step into, and there is this large lake. And despite the sun, which is beating quite warm and hot overhead, there is a palace rising up from the center of the lake, made of what appears to be ice. It is exquisite and glitters in the sunlight like diamonds. The Forest Queen understands well how to make an impression. There is a little boat on the other side of the lake, on your side, that is. And sitting in the boat is a young man playing a stringed instrument. Brum. He says, I saw you back there with the Horned Knight's horde. You availed yourself well.
I think when Akale entered the clearing and that cool lake breeze hit them, they stopped, like they ran into a brick wall, just totally dumbfounded, looking at this amazing ice palace. They dropped the stone, the big rock that they like so much. They just kind of limply let it fall into the dirt. And they kind of realize that someone is talking to them. They go, can you bring me across the lake? I need to get there.
He says, yes, of course. I have a boat right here and a paddle. Come, join me.
Akale walks to the edge right at the outside of the boat and like takes pause. You take no toll?
No, I was headed that way anyway, so it's no trouble. And in any case, I wanted to see the erstwhile champion who managed to free themselves from the clutches of the Horned Knight. That must have been very scary for you.
Akale carefully begins to step into the boat, goes, I just wanted to stay free. That's all I want. And well, I guess if my accounts will stay settled, then I appreciate the ride.
He begins paddling you out. And he says, the Forest Queen will welcome you happily. She loves guests. But I'm afraid she's only going to let one of you leave. But the one who gets to leave leaves with incredible riches. Riches enough to buy anything in the world. Paddle, paddle.
Do you think that if I was the one that she let leave, I could be as free out there as I am now in here?
The Forest Queen can provide you with treasures enough to snap up the Southern Pass Company as easily as buying bread from a baker. Paddle, paddle.
Well, I guess that would be all right. I think Akale is also gonna, it's a look off pensively.
He says, I can give you a little bit of a leg up.
And what shape would that take?
I shall tell you things. I shall give you proper advantage. She will want contests. Song, games, dancing, poetry. She is entertained in a wide variety of ways. But the contest she loves most of all is blood sport. And if you suggest to Her Majesty that you would like to fight the others for her favor, she will be most delighted by that, and that is what you will do.
Hmm. I shouldn't have dropped my rock.
He smiles and says, I'm sure you will be fashioned suitably for the combat.
Hmm.
And the boat continues on. Lek, you arrive at the palace next. You arrive riding the horned knight, who is like a giant stag, racing across the water of the lake. The stag looks over its shoulder at you and says, where shall we make our home when this is all done?
Do you truly have a home? Or is it wherever the hunt is?
Already you know me so well, betrothed. I suppose the more interesting question is, where shall we make our wedding bed?
Am I truly loved by you? Or is it only because I captured you? Did I capture your... Do you have a heart? Does a heart beat there?
At this point, you
Inside
are
you.
on the other side of the bank, at the gate of the palace, and he's in his horned knight form. And he says, I have dreamt of flowers, flowers falling from the sky. For many nights now. And I believe that this is a fulfillment of whatever prophecy was to be revealed in that dream. Who is to say what is love or how we come about it? People engage in unions for all sorts of reasons. But I can tell you, with me, you get the hunt. And quite a lot more besides.
Then let this dream never end.
Sometime later, Mirren, you are the last to arrive at the lake. There's no boat for you. There's no horned knight to ride across on. How are you getting across the lake?
I think I will swim.
Very good. I think this is a risk roll. Mads, Bob, what could go wrong here?
Oh, sorry, you go, Mads.
I'm thinking, I mean, the most basic thing would be, like, falling prey to the water. There's something in the water.
I like that. Yeah. I think that I think you lose yourself in the water, just as your memories have sunk to the bottom of some unknowable lake, so do you. Any other ideas, Bob? Or are you good with those?
No, I second both of those.
Let's talk dice. Mirren, I don't think any of your skills are necessarily
Nope.
applicable here.
Passion to get across the water. I mean, that would be one thing, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you could have just blinked there, I suppose, but
I could
um,
have, but I don't think that Blink has worked out very well for Miriam the last few times, and she's
Yeah.
like,
let's go with just devil's bargains then. I'm going to make my fail condition kind of a devil's bargain and say that something that you had forgotten about, a precious thing, is at the bottom of the lake. Any other devil's bargains?
I think no matter what, I think in your trek across the lake, I think it's fatiguing enough that somehow you lose words. The most choice words that you can think of. I think you lose them.
I think no matter what, when you get, no matter what, whether or not you get to the other side, your fancy duds, your kind of glamored beauty from the party is undone.
You're just a wet rat mess.
Mhm.
Time you get to the other side. Poor Mirren. Do you want any of those? You can reject them all, of course. Of course, you have no light dice, so you'd have to roll a dark die.
I think Miriam's going to lose words.
You have one light die. You can just stay with light for now. You can add dark later if you think you need it.
Okay. I rolled a 2.
You will have to add a dark die if you don't want to sink to the bottom of the lake forever.
I think that that's probably a good plan.
Go ahead. 4 light. The complication is going to be all the words you lose are the ones that would allow you to explain to the Forest Queen why you need her favor. If you're okay with that, let it ride. Otherwise, add a dark die and try again.
Okay, one more for the road. That's 1 light, 3 dark, 2 dark.
2 dark. 4, 3, 5. Same result, but and your ruin goes up.
Yep.
So, but you make it across. Please go ahead and describe your successful navigation of the river.
I think something about the magic of this place. It's not a clean, straight shot across the mirrored surface of this lake, and Mirren finds herself going in little lost circles as she swims to what she thinks is the right shore, but then recalibrates, and in this kind of dizzying exertion is exasperated, but doesn't know that word when she gets to the other shore.
Akale, you're the first to actually get inside the palace. And if the offer was made for you to stay, how might you be useful to the Queen and her court?
I think Akale is strong. They, I think they would take quite well to having to live against odds, and I think that they would do anything so far as it maintained the freedom that they've been looking for this whole time. They would be desperately, completely to the death committed. And as long as that aligned with what the Forest Queen wanted, then yeah.
As you sort of walk through her halls, being funneled directly to her throne room, you see her treasures behind cold glass walls. Gold, gems, artwork. Piled up, pressed up against the glass. All of her wealth on display. And it seems boundless. You arrive in her throne room. She's wearing a surprisingly simple green shift as she sits on her throne, the throne is like the roots of a tree. And the tree itself stretches up to where you can't even see it anymore at the height of the throne room. She has that same lovely green skin as the Horned Knight, and she wears a gold diadem on her head. And she says, "Welcome to my court. You have endured much to reach this place." And the young man takes up a position near the root throne and plays a gentle melody. She says, "What would you have of me? Why do you seek me?"
I think Akale, they approach. I think they take a knee. They kneel, and perhaps a bit too stilted, a bit too formal. They take out their goat hair comb and their little thing of honey cakes that are probably, I hope, just smushed and not also covered in a bit of blood. They hold them up and they go, Forest Queen, I've carried these gifts from the outside of your kingdom here to its heart, and though they are meager, I would lay them at your feet. I have sought you out so that I can be free. I've never been that way, and I'd like to be that way forever.
Your petition is received. Thank you. I shall render judgment in due time. And yet I wonder, would you be worthy of taking up a place here in my court?
I would do anything, I think, to stay this free as long as I lived.
She nods. Lek, you arrive shortly thereafter. The Horned Knight doesn't go in with you. She says, "And here comes one crowned in flowers. Another petitioner. What would you have of me, sir?"
Cal will not only kneel, but he'll also prostrate for a second before looking up, the flowers streaming from his head, and say, "In truth, I want to be free. Free to love whomever I choose. Your knight has claimed me as betrothed, and I wish to be free of my Gish from the witch of Navask, so I can be free too."
I know the witch you speak of well. It would do me no good to make enemies with her. She is a terrible, terrible power. As strong as I am? No. But a thorn in my side? Could she be? Oh, yes. Nevertheless, your petition is received. Mirren,
Thank
you
you.
arrive. She says, "Ah, the third."
Mirren does a deep theatrical bow. Your shining ethereal majesty, I am. And then she puzzles and stumbles for a second, not quite remembering her own name. Forgive me. I need, I want, and she starts getting really flustered, and I crave, I want, I yearn, I desire, wish, and none of the words come to her, and she falls to her knees and pulls out the apple that the shepherd boy gave to her, and through tearing eyes looks up again at the forest queen and takes a giant bite.
Make a ruin roll.
I rolled a 2.
Biting the apple gives you your words back. She says, "Do you feel better?"
I thought I had arrived here and was not able to petition you. Please, Your Majesty, my whole life I have never wanted anything other than to be part of the swirling court. I see now that your court is also very fine, but it is my deepest desire. I beg you, please.
She says, "I shall grant only one petition on this day, or one favor. The one I choose shall have their wish granted. The other two will enjoy the hospitality of my palace, but then be turned out from my lands on the morrow. I wish to be amused. I wish to be entertained. I wish for each of you to show your worth to me, why you deserve my favor more than the others. Contests, I think. What sort of contest would you propose?" She says this to Lek.
The obvious ones would be, of course, performing for you, entertaining you, being
Yes.
amusing.
I love all
But-
those things.
But what if the others were taken out of the picture
Go
and
on.
the choice is lessened to maybe just one? An obvious choice.
I beseech you to speak more plainly. What would you have us do here?
think in answer, I think Kel is going to turn around, and as he's turning around, he's going to fault and then crack open and concentrate on at least taking out Akale, striking
Very good.
his heart.
Their heart. Mirren, she says, what contest would you prefer?
I myself find much distraction in pleasure. Perhaps we could vie for your affections. Or if you'd like to be amused, the first one of us to make you laugh.
And I think at this point, the Forest Queen, not entirely understanding your meaning, Lek, but nevertheless, you make your move against Akale. Akale, you've seen this trick before. You know what Lek is about to do. I assume you wish to meet Lek here. I think it's a contest roll.
Mhm.
With the stakes being who is removed from the competition and who is not. How would you counter it, Lek or Akale, once you realize what's about to happen?
Well, I don't have my rock, and it feels more interesting to try to think of this from a perspective of just like, all I've got is me. How do I do this? So I don't think that Akale could count on being able to just dispatch Lek or Kel in a swift blow, and they've seen this fault sign over and over again. So I think that Akale would jump forward, the big, strong woodcutter body, and just try to shatter Lek's hands.
Mm. Okay, contest roll. Let's take a look
Okay.
at the dice here. Okay, who has a relevant skill? Lek has
I have
rituals
strength.
and trickery, so you got your one light
Yep.
die, and strength for
Yeah.
Akale. Let's talk about Ruin. Currently, Lek, you have 4. Akale, you also have 4, so you're both up to 5
Mhm.
light. I think 1 dark is automatic for the inherent danger, so you're both up to 5 light, 1 dark. And you can add as many extra dark dice as you wish, understanding that if any of those come up a 1, your ruin goes up by 1. You could win, but then be lost. So,
Oh, sure. No.
yeah.
That I'm perfectly happy to do. Want to make this fun. All right. Oh God.
Okay.
Whenever you have your numbers entered in, let me know.
All right. Hold on.
I'm set.
I'm not. Sorry.
I can't think about it too hard, or I'm going to change my numbers. But
All
this
right,
isn't
just
about
for-
math.
Yeah. It's just for funsies. All right. I'm ready to go to roll off.
Let's do it.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, so
Wow.
for people watching the video, in case anyone's curious, Lek rolled 5 light and 7 dark, and Akale rolled 5 light and
13.
13 dark.
Love it.
The final result was, let's see, I can't see it all.
I
There
can't
we
see
go.
all my dice either. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the final result was 3 6s for Akale and only 2 6s for Lek, which means that Akale is the winner. Additionally, Lek got 2 1s on the dark dice, but Akale also got 2 1s on the dark dice. So
Oh boy.
you both, Akale wins, you both kind of lose. Akale, you can describe how you first. I think I know how Akale goes to 6 ruin here. So Akale, you just describe how you dispatch Lek. What does this look like?
I think it's the jumping forward. It's like immediately grabbing Lek's hand so hard you can hear all of the bones in his hands break. And then I don't want to be too needlessly gory, but I know this is supposed to be very
Go for it.
upsetting. I think that and maybe this is too cartoonish, you tell me. I think Akale headbutt, like holding Lek there, just like pulls Lek in really close and then headbutts them until like their head is caved in.
Or Lek, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think like, as this is happening, I mean, I think um you see like Cal, um, as you grab his hands, like he starts to look like afraid, but then just actually starts to smile and then grin as you drive your horns like to bash him,
Oh,
and
right.
he's still grinning, and then like you see in the light of his eyes, it's like, you're setting him free.
Mhm.
And then like, as you're bashing him into like a bloody pulp, like it's starting to fall, the human side is starting to fall away, and then you start like bashing into the flowers, and the flowers start surrounding your horns and sticking to you now.
That's amazing. This is like a Batman and Joker at the end of Killing Joke moment. Because I think Akale also is like feeling jubilant, probably.
Yeah.
You only get to enjoy your celebration for a moment. Mirren, you are quickly tossed aside as the horned knight impales Akale on his horns, lifts Akale up into the air on his horns, Akale's blood spilling down over his naked body. Mirren, what do you do?
I think pushed aside, Mirren stumbles and ends
Actually,
up.
Mirren, make a ruin roll first for all this, for witnessing all this. Let's see if this takes you out. A 3, you're fine. So what do you do?
She was actually kind of tumbled and stumbled into the troubadour and has to like stand up from the tangle of limbs, seeing her companions having completely destroyed each other, looks back up to the forest queen and says, "May my petition now be granted?"
She smiles. That concludes ring 5. Let's go ahead and do our epilogues. For those of you who are dead, you can simply narrate a future without you, or what it looks like, or maybe what happens to your body, or however you want to do it. And Mirren, of course, you get to narrate your final outcome here. So think about it for a moment, and whoever wants to narrate their epilogue first, go ahead.
I
We can
think
we can take a quick break too if anybody would like that. Think about it. Okay, go ahead, Nance.
I think at the point of Kel's death, I think the Witch of Navas gets like a backlash, and she feels like the snap as Kel dies. But then, as she's doing so, and she's like, like getting a visible physical shudder and snap, she has blooms of flowers bursting out of her ears as this is happening. And then I think in the future, the Horned Knight will do what he does, go around, hunt for prey, but I think he will always see like a wistful vision of Cal as he was triumphant, staring down at him in the hole, claiming him as his prey. And he will always have a blossom, a bloom, or a garland of those flowers in his hair. They've managed to cultivate it for forevermore, and he will always have some blossom near him or on him.
I love it. Thank you.
I'm of two minds as far as what happens here. I think for Akale to die, and I don't really have any image in my mind of how that would look. I think they would be thrown out with the trash, maybe tossed into the lake. I think that would be not a small measure of like a peaceful enough end for Akale. They were very much live free or die. And in that case, die is just as good an option. I can imagine the Southern Pass Company periodically for at least let's say a year afterwards, trying to send collectors to the last known location of Akale, to the forest. And poetic justice moment would be if those few handful of collectors sent, all of them never returned.
That's good. Mirren.
I think several years later, we see Mirren on the edge of a grand ball. It's a party. The swirling court has plenty of fae intermixed. There is a camaraderie of jovial and fancifully dressed creatures from all over. And we see Mirren sitting at the edge of it, having gotten her heart's desire, stone-faced, and internally you can just tell that she has found exactly what she was running from as a child, and all of the courtly games and politics and all of these people and their petty problems have soured her.
Fantastic. That concludes Throne of the Forest Queen. Let's go ahead and do Stars and Wishes while we have some time here. It can be for the whole series, both sessions, or just something today, or both. Stars, of course, are things you enjoyed. Wishes are things that, well, in this context, I think wishes are just like, it would have been cool to see this if it had happened or whatever. So, but I'll start today since you all did epilogues. I had a really good time. This is a great little two-shot. I love, I really love the story we told. It was just filled with so much irony and so much tragedy, and it was funny at times. Like, it felt so obviously like a group of like flighty, malevolent fae having their way with the three of you and watching the three of you literally tear yourselves apart at the end for their amusement. And the fae probably also enjoyed the irony of how Mirren ended up as well, right? So in that sense, it was really interesting because it had this feeling of like, we are just small, desperate people who have put on this play for these people, right? And so I really loved that whole feeling of it. Was really good. I also liked I loved the sort of eroticism and the sort of sexuality of the session in particular. I thought that the sort of bard character, this young man, was such a fascinating character because like he was clearly like there doing this for the Forest Queen and sort of like working the angles, and but I also got the impression that he sometimes felt it too, like I think he actually felt something for Lek, right? Especially. And so that was really fun to play out. The encounter with the Horn Knight was fabulous. Yeah, it was just a great time overall. I thought everyone did a really good job.
Just wanted to say how horn-filled and horny it all was. It was amazing. Holy crap. I mean, like, it's like had the goats and then the satyr/fawns, and then, just as you said, Jason, like with the eroticism, I mean, like, and there was just this underlying thing of like freedoms, between Akale wanting to be free of his debt or the cult or both, and then with Lek wanting to be free of his geesh, and then just like, have somebody love him in the end, which I guess happened, but I mean, couldn't enjoy it, obviously. And it was just, this is what happens when you return to the forest, any forest, basically in Trophy Dark. And it was wonderful. I mean, I enjoyed like everybody's narrations. I mean, like, Mirren so desperate for words and wanting to be part of this court that, you be careful what you ask for, because when you get it, oh shit. And like Akale, I mean, that was just such, having like this shadow over him, whether it be from like the cults and like, what you were born into, and then like, the debt from the Southern Pass. I mean, like that, double burden, double whammy on you, and then you carried it through all the way, and to try to be free. And I mean, again, like, I don't know what the theme. I don't remember if we ever saw what the theme was for this incursion, but I mean, whatever the hell it was, seemed like to be horns and freedom.
Horns, horniness and horns, being horned up. The theme, the actual listed theme is glamour. So
okay, we experienced that a lot too. So I mean, like, that's
yeah,
not
and all
a
this,
surprise.
in all definitions of glamour, right? Like,
Yeah.
In like the real, like, kind of, like, even in the fashion sense, with the sort of Spider Fae and Mirren. Yeah, it's great. Any other stars or wishes?
I'll go next. I have just a few character stars from this specific session. First, early on, when we were presented, Akale and I, at the feast, and I was eating the duck, no problem. And there was a moment where Jason just is like playing as the Fey Lord, and he's like, he holds a nut up, puts it to your lips. That made me giggle really hard on the inside. So I just enjoyed that, because I had imagined the like Fey Lord being like, okay, yep, yep, you tiny creature, why are you still talking? And it was perfectly encapsulated. Also, that scene where Akale, you got to brain in his like skull with the rock, that was really powerful. Just like we were saying off mic, the choices that we were kind of forced to make always felt like they had enough weight that the consequences were felt even as a player beyond our characters. So that's just Trophy Dark at its best.
Yeah, this session was bleedy in a way I like, which is doesn't happen very often, actually. I don't experience bleed in role-playing games as a general matter. It's not something I do, but I bet this one I did. I actually really like felt there were key moments where I felt like I really felt it, like I felt the toughness of the decisions. I felt the sort of like this, I felt the attraction. I felt all that. It was good.
Yeah. Mads, there was the description as I was in the arms of the soon-to-be betrothed horned knight. You were describing the flowers that were emanating from you, and it was so perfectly that Harlequin fight scene gif. Like it really just, it felt both magical and powerful at the same time in the best way possible. Also, later on, Akale, you using your own head because you didn't have a rock to kill Lek. Beautiful, just mwah, chef's kiss, really.
All in the moment, just came to me.
Mm-hmm. Wishes. I knew that things weren't going to end well for Mirren, because me as a player, it was always going to be ironically terrible, because those characters can't win in life. That is something I would rail against. So I was not expecting that contest roll to go the way it did. I felt like she was going to get trapped by the Forest Queen and perform as a jester in her court for her amusement forever. So it took a real left turn, but I was really satisfied with how it ended.
I, for one, am I'm overwhelmed in the best way. This whole session, I mean, I'm going to try to put some stars in here, but it all there's a phrase my friends and I like to use from this comedy show that we watched. It's really funny, but it's stuck in my head. It's cosmic gumbo. It's from a bit in a show, but and I won't name drop it. But that's kind of what this whole session felt like. I mean, it was a dream state, very much like our characters passing through the forest. And every time something solidified into an actual concrete scene or an action taken or risk roll, it was just perfect. It totally captured all of my attention. There was just the perfect amount of bleed for sure. Jason, like you mentioned, I mean, real emotions being felt, which is something that definitely doesn't happen with me at the table often either. And as my first time getting to play Trophy Dark instead of run it, I mean, I couldn't have asked for literally anything more. Heartfelt is how I feel like our story today ended. Really, really earnestly heartfelt. And I love that. No wishes left.
Yeah, it was really good. I don't really have any wishes, but because I think the story was like kind of just perfect as it was. I do think that there is what I think is always interesting about this game is how, like, when I propose a thing, like a Devil's Bargain or whatever, or I put something out there in the world, I always have an idea of like how I think it's going to play out. It's like, okay, well, I put this out there, and so I think this is what's probably going to happen, or I think this is the choice that the player will make that will cause this to happen. And in Trophy Dark, it like almost never does. And I think that's what I love about it, right? Because it's like you're working off this foundation of like, oh, that would be really cool, and the player does something that is also really cool, right? And so it changes your expectation. And so I really, really love that. Like, I absolutely did not foresee the Horned Knight coming in and like avenging Kell, right? Like, I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but like it just felt so perfect in the moment, because it's like, okay, well, Akale is a 6 ruin, so something has to happen here, and the Horned Knight was, there sitting on the shelf, so like something had to happen with the Horned Knight, So yeah, I just love all that.
It was Chekhov's Horned Knight.
Yeah, it was Chekhov's Horned Knight, right? Yeah, exactly. And but like in my mind, I thought, well, what was going to happen is no matter what ended up with the Forest Queen, I thought Kell was going to like end up being this like kind of like possession of the Horned Knight, that his body was going to break up into flowers and drape the Horned Knight's body at the end. That's kind of what I imagined, right? Like I thought it was going to be something like that. But it wasn't. It was just Kell getting his head caved in and the Horned Knight in a burst of like anger, like maybe the Horned Knight's his own intentions being interrupted, I just love all that. I love that about the game. And it's good. And yeah, just a really great time. This incursion, probably more than any of the rest, creates so much space for this like kind of very like kind of kind of dreamy, sensual, like almost like languid sort of storytelling space, and I really love it. I think it's really, really good. I do like to say that it's like A24 the game, right? And like this incursion really felt like it. So so I was really happy. But yeah, no notes.
I just have to star again, like, this game, and it's like, your able handling of just giving us just these things in the incursion that encourage us to take that space, lean in, and, see how our doom is, no matter what it is, whether we survive or if we, become ruined. I mean, it doesn't matter. This game is so beautiful in just allowing us this storytelling intensity that, I mean, honestly, it's like, this is why I love the role play, is because it's like, you can create so many different stories. It can go into so many different directions, and this game allows you to do it, I mean, there's it gives you this feeling. I mean, like there is intensity here, and I am totally here for it. I mean, like, you know, I was expecting to be ruined, but this was amazing. I mean, and this is only my second time playing Trophy Dark. I've like run
Oh,
a few
interesting.
incursions
Yeah.
already, so this
Yeah.
is only my second time playing.
Was the other time? Did we play
Flocculent.
the other time? Yeah, Flocculent.
Flocculent
Okay, that's right. Oh, so
Cathedral,
it's these two
so-
times. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So
That was fun too. Fabulous. Well, any other stars or wishes? Okay, well, I'm gonna wave goodbye to people watching the video. Bye, bye.